Do you need an analog mixer in your studio? Probably not. Is it fun? Oh yes, it absolutely is. Hi, I'm Heinbach and it's good to have you back. Ever since I put this mixer in my studio, you've been asking me a lot of questions about it and demanding a video. But I thought instead of making a video on just this particular mixing board, I would do a video in general on using analog mixers in the home studio in 2025. Because I have had quite a lot of them and still have and still use them. I'll go into the reasons why I think they're still useful, and I'll show you some techniques that I use to turn them into an instrument. And in the end, I'll look on some new and old mixers that are useful front ends for your digital audio workstation or even your tape machine. But first, a little history on the mixers that I've had in this studio before I got this one. In 2011, I was bit by the modular bug, and that changed everything about how I wanted to do music. Before, I was absolutely fine on stacking a bunch of tracks in the DAW. That was the main way I went about things. But with modular, I wanted to do everything outside of the digital audio workstation. I'd gotten a bit tired of looking at all those little Legos. So I tried to find a mixer that would allow for more hands-on control and a more playful interaction than, basically stacking, clicking, mousy things. And the one I settled on after a lot of research was the Allen & Heath Mixwizard Mark I. And that's the mixer that you can still see in many of my early videos. That thing had 6 auxes and a feedback matrix, and that introduced me to all kinds of dub mixing techniques. It was endless fun, it sounded clean, sounded punchy, it was very much a live mixer. But it kept dying on me, channel after channel, and at that time it seemed cheaper to buy something old new and also has more inputs than fixing it up, because I found one of the mixes that I always wanted back when I was a teenager in the 90s in the Black Forest, a Ramsa WRS mixer. That was the one that got away from me, because the guy who sold it in the store kept it for himself. And I found one for 300 euros locally. I just picked it up, set it up here, and started working with that. And that felt luxurious, because for the first time I had a proper studio desk, or at least entry-level studio desk, and some use it also as a live board. So still, it was a good mixer, it was different, it had size. So the Allen & Heath 19-inch rack, the Ramsa big, I think even bigger than this one here. And it had nice equalizers, but it tended to sound rather dark. And it was not the most quiet of mixers. While it felt wonderful to mix on it, at the same time I had started working with test equipment and some German broadcast equipment from the 60s and 70s, and there I encountered a level of quality that the Ramsa just could not match. It was comparatively noisy, and the sweet spot where it overdrove just beautifully was a very, very tiny sweet spot. So you needed to hit it correctly all the time, and if you just went a little bit over, you would get a not so nice distortion anymore. So I started looking for a replacement, and the mixers that caught my eye were of course Studer mixers and EMT. But those that I could afford were either too small or did not have enough auxes. Usually the Studers have 2 auxes, which is not enough because I need more than that. Then I came across this one. This is an A&T 700 board, and this was manufactured for A&T or rebadged by A&T from the same company, which is Norwegian. This has just the right amount of inputs and outputs that I could make work here. So I paid a rather hefty 5,350 euro for this. That was probably one of the biggest purchases I've ever made, but I thought this is gonna be the board that they'll carry me away from when I pass away. So it took about 3 days to integrate this in my studio because I needed to rewire everything to balanced connectors. So I've got these patch bays here, and just as I was done, one of the channels blew up. That was a bad moment, but not a big problem because this is modular, so I could just take out the offending channel strip, work with the rest, and then my tech and me got together and he showed me how to recap everything. Now let's have a closer look at its functions. This configuration that I have here is 13 channels of mono with mic and line switches, and 3 channels of stereo, and 2 subgroups, a master group and a monitor section. I've read that there are also dynamic sections available, but I never saw one. The mono channels come equipped with a mic and line input, which you switch here, a pad for the mic, and you've got 60 decibels of gain plus another 10 on this knob here. You've got a high pass filter from 80 to 140, a phase switch, and a really fantastic EQ with a high shelf, a low shelf, and 2 parametrics for the mids. The EQ can be switched in or out, which is very useful, especially if you're running it like I do, where I have both mics set up but also line. So I might want to EQ the mics always, and then I don't want to EQ the line. So I just have to remember to switch this on and off. This is a feature that is usually found more on professional desks, and this is a broadcast board. It has an on-air light up here, so when you open the fader, pop, that goes on, which could be cool if I had like a red light cued to that outside so people would know that I was recording. There are 4 auxes here and you can switch them to pre or post directly here, which is very useful. There's a pan and here are the 3 subgroups and a mute. Now the mute is on a switch, which makes it clickless, which is nice, but still it's not very playable. On my Ramsa I could simply press a bunch of mutes and release them. This is sadly not possible here. But the advanced sonics of this mixer with its Lundal balanced microphone preamps make up for that by far. I find myself playing this a bit more calmly than my previous mixers and more listening to the sound because it's just so clean and open. Speaking of clean and open, I've routed the subgroups to my RME UEFX 2. So this subgroup is absolutely clean. There's nothing on this channel. On this subgroup is a massive vacuum tube germanium transistor based ring modulator, so I can mash up sounds with this. And on this group is all my bus processing, EQ and compressor. And the monitor group, yeah, that's clean again. And this group is also the one that is routed to the Telefunken M15 tape machine in the back. So if I want to do multi-channel recording, I can easily do it. But if I want to just record a stereo track to tape with everything, I can also do that. A nice feature are the limiters on the master bus, because if I do feedback experiments, they protect me very well. Now, here in the monitor section, there's also an oscillator, so you can check where signals go, and you've got a little monitor here that actually sounds pretty good, and I'll show you what it does later in the video. I really like the color and the layout of this board. It's so good to have a mixer that's not just black and has color contrast. There are 3 things a mixer in the studio has to be for me. The first thing, it has to combine all the odd instruments that I have here and all these little islands over there and over there of other synthesizers into one. The second thing, it has to be a fun, playable interface, because the mixer for me is an instrument that I like to play. The sliders have to feel good, the knobs when I turn them, and everything has to be laid out in a way that I can easily access everything. The third and probably most important thing is it has to be a sound design tool. It has to allow me to mess up sounds beautifully. And that means it has to sound clean by itself, because I'm working with a lot of noisy sources. So the mixer itself has to be rather quiet to not add to that. Turn this mixer into a creative tool, I like to employ feedback mixing. That means I've got a bunch of channels here that are not set up to feed instruments into them, but effects, and then feed those effects back, creating feedback loops all over. Here on channel 2 and 3, I've got my wall of test equipment, which runs through the mic inputs. And I can also switch that to my Studer mixer in the back. That's the wall of test equipment playing. But now I want to mess this up. I'm muting the channel. I'm sending it to aux2, which goes to a little adapter box over there, which distributes it to all kinds of effects in that side of the studio. For example, 2 PBO bandpass filters. Ooh. And now I want to give this an airy feel. So I am adding in my quadraverbs, which I run in series. Got a video on that, you can watch here, and I'll link it at the end. Bring in the original. This just adds this white noise up top, which I really like. This is a fun way to process things. Split it on filters, run it into space. Okay, that's one of the things I like to do here. Then I've got another spectrum analyzer down there, which I use to create these micro sounds from everything. Same signal, and the spectrum analyzer tries to track it. Let's add a bit of Eventide H3000. Now bring in the PBOs again. Let's try feeding it back, because since I'm routing everything to their own channel, I can just route the signal back to aux2. Kinda nice already, but I've got another filter bank that I assembled from 4 HP spectrum analyzers, I think they're called. Wave analyzers. From 4 wave analyzers. Another video, link it at the end again. And that completely changes sound, because these are 4 tracking filters with their own gain and their own way to sweep the sound. You can probably hear it clicking in the background because they're relay controlled, and that just sounds there's a mixer down there where I'm adding phasing and ring modulation. PBO. HP. Again, I can feed this back. That's quite the change to the original signal. Well, let's add a bit of a bass drum, and I'm running the Rohde & Schwarz UVM into the Echo Fix tape echo up top because I like the sound of the preamp. And you can see, I think I'm totally maxing out the mixer and it still sounds nice and clean. That's amazing. I haven't even gauged the limiters. Yeah, those are crapping out now. That's too much for them. Go no limiter. Play a bit of Moog Muse down here. Usually I would not be sitting here. I would be running around, turn all those filters, switch things up. This is just to give you an idea how with all these filters feedbacking into the mixer, I like to mess up sounds. Now, another few things that are interesting. So as you heard, I've got filters on aux 2, H3000 on aux 3, and Octaverb on aux 4. On aux 1, I've got the tape echo, and I had that modded so I can do sound on sound with that, which sounds rather nice. So turn on the echo and record something into it. So now I've got a little loop going on. Pitch that down. An octave, half speed. Add a different sound. I can pitch this one down. Let's see if that fits with the key of the track we're working on. Kind of cool. So now I'm also splitting the signal into the vocoder, which is here. another fun thing about this mixer is that it has an integrated speaker. So I could, for example, set the rhythm here to pre-fader listen. And now it comes out of this speaker here. I can up the volume a bit. And I can put the mic here. That should trigger now the tape loop. That's just another fun thing you can do with the mixer, where you have an integrated speaker. To absolutely shred signals to pieces, I employ the Princeton Applied Research CR4A, which I use as a preamp here. And then I run everything into the wire recorder, which I also turned into a plugin called Wires with Audio Thing. If you haven't played with that, do check it out. I'm playing this Magic Box by Ecalimbus. I just love how this creates a grainy texture out of everything. And then if I add the wire recorder, it's just so lovely, just the noise by itself. That is definitely a client favorite, because I've got other people working in the studio here with me, recording music. Usually people come to me when they want something different or experimental. Now this mixer does not work alone. Here's the remote for my RME, and I've got different settings saved here for different recording situations. So for example, when I do multi-track recording, I change the monitoring here with the switch. If I want to do stereo, I change it here. If I want to monitor from a different speaker, also here, that's very handy. So the RME acts as a secondary digital mixer. And then I've got Ableton Live, where I'm using the auxes to route stuff out of the interface back into the real world and then record them again. For example, I've set up an acousmonium over there with a few rare French speakers. That signal gets recorded with mics. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different mics, and the mic preamps on this are fantastic. They're clean, they're loud, so up to 60 decibels plus another 10 decibels here. Very lovely. Then I can process it again here. And that's some real life feedback in the room that can happen, but can be pretty tasty. One thing that I've learned over time is that I can't change too much on the mixer always. Hence, the patch bays are not used as a patch base much. I basically have them as converters from jack to XLR mostly, except for some situations where I patch stuff from the RME outside here or the microphone to somewhere else and stuff like that. Very simple things, because I need things to be in certain places so I can reach them and play them, and I need them to be here so I can use even muscle memory to play the instrument, which this mixer is to me. Also, there's time to think of. I'm not every day here in my studio. I go on tour, I've got other things I need to work on, there's videos to edit, then I have gigs outside, like recording for other people, recording with other people, and that takes away time from the studio. And this is a very complicated, very busy instrument. So I tend to limit the complexity to what I have here. And for example, on the Octoverb, I haven't changed anything. I just leave this effect as it is, and it's part of my reverb sound. And I accept that. That's it. Done. I don't need anything else. That said, I'm still able to easily accommodate any situation here. So if someone wants to plug in an aux, I've got a DI box right here, and you can immediately go to the mixer and record. There are many microphones always ready to record within a few moments. And that's kind of important because, yeah, this is a playground, and nothing sucks more in a playground than when something doesn't work and kills the idea of play. And then people like, okay, look at their phones, and I do wait until I do this. That's something to bear in mind too. Upkeep. As I said before, this mixer blew up when I got it. So should you consider getting an analog mixer, a bigger one for your studio, get something that allows you to take off the different channels. That's another thing I like about broadcast mixers. These are made to a very high standard, and once you've recapped it, it lasts for a long, long time and still runs smoothly. Such a joy. Yeah, nothing sticks here. Many boards that were made for music or for live are a bit worn once they get to you after second hand. Smoking studios and all of that, that's a lot of gunk you need to clean up, and noisy poties and everything. Yeah, this is blessedly quiet in that regard. Now, you might not need a big analog mixer, so here are some smaller ones that I've used and that you might also enjoy, from very cheap to rather expensive to almost unobtainium. Hiding in my wall of test equipment, or shall I say integrated into it, is this Tascam M-208 Portastudio. Now, this is not a normal mixer. This is meant to record onto 4 tracks, so it has an integrated tape deck, which is wonderful. But I love to use it mostly as a mixer here, because this and all the Tascams have fantastic preamps that just overdrive beautifully, especially with high-level signals. And I think there's a bit of a cult about these now. They've gotten very expensive because apparently guitarists also like to run stuff through them. Just has a very electric, beautiful, hard tone to it. If you want that sound, you can get any Tascam, and I'm going to show you a few alternatives because the preamp sound is similar on all of them, if not even identical. This is a character mixer. It's not clean, it's not quiet, but if you want to add grit to a signal, Tascam M-208 and its relatives are a very, very good thing to get. Underneath my studio desk hides another mixer, the Kawai keyboard mixer MX8R. I use this to mix this filter bank, and it's related to the Tascams because it's a pretty dirty mixer that overdrives nicely, but it has 2 aux, so I can easily add effects such as ring modulation to the filter bank or a phaser. And I can make it overdrive easily since it has 3 different gain settings. another color mixer, and the distortion on this is even brighter than on the Tascam. It sounds more broken, which I kind of like for this filter bank. This beauty here is the Studer C279 mixer, and I use it as a sub mixer for all these keyboards here before they go to the main desk. This is the 6-channel version of the biggest Studer mixers, designed for small radio stations or theaters or production environments. As such, this comes with RCA and XLR inputs, so you can't simply plug your synthesizers in there, you need adapters. But if you have them, you've got 6 stereo or 6 mono channels, which is already quite a lot. It has nice long faders, an integrated speaker, so you can do all the feedback experiments that I did there, a great sounding equalizer, and 1 aux. So very minimalist in design, but it really sounds good, and it's hard to make it sound bad by overloading it. With the built-in EQ and the gain, you can make weak signals sound big. When I got this, these used to go for about 650 euros. Now it seems to be double that. Not sure if it's worth it, because in the end it's just a beautifully nice and clean mixer. And here is the baby version of the mixer up top. It's an 8-channel mixer, all mono, and this is probably the best bang for the buck in terms of getting a high quality small format console. Because 4 aux on a mixer of this size, very good preamps, though they only go up to 50 decibels and not 60 as the one up top, modular design, and a very flexible routing section. This is just, yeah, all you could wish for in the small format console. I'm pairing it down here with the Tascam M-208, which is again a dirt mixer for me. I use it to add warmth distortion and the classic Tascam EQ sound, which is very nice, but this is not a quiet mixer. It's a bit noisy, even though it's been serviced. So this is a color mixer. This beautiful little thing is in fact the last mixer I bought. It's a TEAC Model 2A audio mixer. Cost me 120 bucks, and it's beautiful. It's meant to run with a tape machine, the TEAC 3440. So it's all RCA inputs and mics are on jacks. But it does the Tascam TEAC thing where it just overdrives fantastically, as you can hear in this little clip. This makes for a fantastic analog front end to add grit, dirt, and distortion on the cheap. Speaking of color, this one is a cool little oddity I found very cheap on Reverb Japan. So this is a Yamaha KM602. It looks cool and it has a wonderful, wonderful chorus. And I really like the way in which they implemented the readouts for how loud you're getting. It's just this little plastic piece that follows the fader. Well, primitive, but beautiful. To mix the TTSH and the Surge and other assorted instruments when I play here, I'm using this LS828 mixer. This was a gift from a Polish viewer. Thank you, Jedreci. I hope I got your name right. And it's total overkill here, because this mixer is one of the best recording mixers I've ever heard in terms of mic preamps. Check out the Nuclear Drum Loops sample pack that I made. You can find that on my Bandcamp. Too much for mixing electronic instruments here, but yeah, I'll always keep this around for whenever I have a recording session. This big thing is absolutely wonderful. It's a Yamaha Ensemble Mixer, and I had this in my studio for the longest time, but it was just too big. But whenever I need wonderful character, like a step above what the Tascams do, this comes out, because you can overdrive it but retain the power of the bass very nicely. It has a fantastic spring reverb inside and a little drum machine. Bebe Cheri by Oto Machines is one of the few new mixers that I bought. I had very high expectations for that, and sonically it absolutely delivers. The gain on this it's as good as on the Oto Boom, which is one of my favorite effects ever. The tilt EQ, simple, effective, level control, all good. Like very nice, robust potty here. These mutes, they feel a bit flimsy. Exciter here, which I find kind of pointless. It's a bit of a retro 80s thing that I don't like. Comp is very good. Has a phones out directly here, which is nice. And the master, yeah, everything sounds good about this. It's just there's no aux. You only have an alternate out here that engages whenever you've basically turned off a channel. So I use this live, for example, at my show at Berghain or in Istanbul, to split the kick drums to the mixing desk. That works fine, but no way to get a real aux on here is severely limits the possibilities of this else pretty fantastic little mixer. And here's a final tip for a mixer that's cheap and actually sounds rather good, at least better than most of the modern mixers in terms of vibe. That is the Spirit Folio series by Soundcraft. These were the last mixers Soundcraft made, still in the UK. And while everything feels kind of flimsy, oh, this one is a bit dusty, so it's not very good quality in terms of like how the faders feel or the poties. Some of them are really, yeah, loose. It just sounds pretty good. I got this for live use back in the early 2000s on recommendation from some well-respected sound engineers, and it's still a mixer I throw in a pinch. The only thing that bothers me a bit is the proprietary power supply with this kind of connector. And there is a 1 kilohertz knob. That's incredibly loud. So for testing things. So yeah, if you press this, you're gonna make people's ears bleed if you're not careful. But else, this Soundcraft is actually a pretty good mixer if you're looking for something portable, light, and yeah, with a bit of tone to it. Those were almost all the analog mixes I've had over time. I skipped a few because they were either doubling or they were modern mixes that I really didn't enjoy much, except for being handy. Like a little Mackie is a wonderful little thing, but I never found I would get more tone out of it by putting things through it. I almost always preferred running direct into the interface, so I'm not covering those here. With most of the mixes I showed you here, you're getting a bit more sound, either because they are transformer balanced and they are quiet and the EQs are nice, so yeah, you can shape the tone and just get a little bit of that nice iron sound in it, or because they overdrive in a way that I find rather interesting. Music from this video will be on the Patreon, as well as a small sample pack, and your support there is how I can keep on making these videos. So thank you for that. If you have any more questions or mixer recommendations, put them in the comments below or visit the Heinbach subreddit. Thank you for watching. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye.